Opinions expressed are those of the show's host, certainly not mine, or EXP Realty. Any reproduction or reuse of this show without written consent of WPSL and WSTU is strictly prohibited. And now the My Dream Home radio show, your chance to find your dream home with Miss Eileen Simons.
Hey, don't be shy. You're pretty vocal sometimes. We appreciate your input. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday to you, and we want to invite your participation. You can call into the WPSL studio, although we are on WPSL and WSTU, and the TuneIn app, but you can call into the station if you want to participate by phone, 772-340-1590. If you're too far away to get our radio signal, which of course goes from Palm Bay to PGA up and down Cliffs Highway. Wow. Anyway, you can listen on the TuneIn app or that thing at home. What's that thing called?
Either Google Home.
Somebody's listening to my every conversation.
Alexa.
Yeah.
Alexa, which has a 94 share of the market. Wouldn't you like that?
No.
That's amazing. I mean,
I don't want anybody in my home who is not a human being. I have enough trouble with that.
Well, Google Home listens to Carol and I.
I'm sure.
Every once in a while, those lights go on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's listening all the time.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, by the way, we need one more country. We need one more country to listen. So
Only one?
We're at 59 now.
Oh.
So.
Gee, just last week we were at like 46 or something.
Right, we were at 49 last week. So we need one more to hit the next. Yeah.
Well,
EXP,
it's crazy. EXP is bringing on another country soon, so.
There you go.
I don't know which one it is, but I'll double check.
You need EXP just to buy this show. I mean, it's a worldwide show, start
I know.
Talking with
just
the
like
EXP people
Realty
in
is
Germany
a worldwide real estate company.
Very cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Any idea where the other country is?
I just read it the other day. I don't know if it's been released for official publication yet, so I should find that out before I say anything.
Well, any idea what continent? Come on, you're teasing us now.
No.
Okay. I'll stop.
Remember, realtors have to keep things that are not public information private.
That's right.
Until it becomes public information.
Ah, okay. Now you're going to get legal on us.
What can I say?
So how's business?
Business is good. Yes, business is good. What I will say about business in general is prices are not going up. The market, it has leveled out. So if you think you're going to sell your house for more than the person down the street from you did when you have less in your house than they have, not going to happen. But we are still, depending on the neighborhood, we are still seeing multiple offers on the same properties.
Sure.
Of course, depending on neighborhood and condition. And, yeah.
Remember I told
we have
you
plenty
about
of
the
buyers.
open house across the street from us?
Yes, 30-some.
Somebody moved in yesterday.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness.
It doesn't take long. Well,
No,
that
it
was a
doesn't.
cash buyer then, because that was within 3 weeks, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Depending on the
absolutely
title company, they can be pretty fast for them if they need to.
So you're trying to tell me that CNBC might be a little off base, saying the world has come to an end in real estate?
This is one of the things that Liz and I are going to discuss today. So let's get through
get through
our intros. And we are, if you want this show to continue, we are definitely looking for sponsors. And if you will have worldwide exposure if you sponsor our show. So just keep that in mind. You can call me, 772-200-5105. Or you can call Greg and Carol at the station, 340-1590, and we can give you all the information that you need. Mm-hmm. So without further ado, we want to welcome our featured guest today. She is Liz Baize. She's with TC Rentals and Property Management. They are out of Jensen Beach. We will give you her contact information now, and then we'll also give it to you later on. So Liz's direct number is 772-453-5095. And like I said, their office is in Jensen Beach. It's at 1665 Northeast Jensen Beach Boulevard. The zip is 34957.
I drove by there the other day.
And the office phone number, make sure you ask for Liz if you're calling the office. That number is 772-225-6742. So Liz, thank you very much for participating today and for being live here in the studio with us.
Well, Eileen, thank you so much for inviting me. I mean, I really appreciate this opportunity. It's a bit out of my comfort zone. Probably the only reason I accepted your invitation is because of you and how much I've enjoyed working with you since last year. Really.
That's okay, and I think you have a great voice for the radio, too.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
So, Liz, tell us something about TC Rentals and what you do.
Sure. Eileen, TC Rentals and Property Management is actually a full-service real estate company. Our primary task is to manage 90-plus properties that we have in inventory at all times. These properties consist of single-family homes, condos, even townhomes located between Hobe Sound and Tradition.
Is there a reason why you stick within those boundaries?
Yes, we like to focus on properties within a half-hour drive from our office or as close to that as possible. It would be difficult to provide good service to properties not within a territory that our vendors normally work.
And so if you're talking within a 30-minute drive, then you theoretically would manage properties that are on Hutchinson Island also.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and of course we often go a little bit more, but we don't get too far out of the comfort zone. Vero, not our space,
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay. And what exactly is your role within the company, Liz?
Well, what I do and what I enjoy most about my role, Eileen, is that it's actually multifaceted. To begin with, my associate and I find tenants for the individual owners whose property we manage. We start out by doing background checks on each. We verify monthly income, rental history, whether or not the person has any pets, if the prospective tenants drive commercial vehicles on a regular basis, that kind of thing. All these things need to be taken into consideration when we present to the owner, because it's always the owner that makes the final decision.
Right. And I think what a lot of people don't understand, especially people from out of the area, is there are so many different restrictions in some of our communities, like commercial vehicle restrictions,
Exactly.
or trucks or
I
motorcycles,
can't park my
or
18-wheeler in the
pets,
driveway.
or you'd be amazed at some of the restrictions.
Well, I know ours, as far as RVs.
Yeah.
You can't have an RV there overnight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how do you find your tenants typically?
Well, many of our tenants respond to the advertising we do for our owners, but the majority seem to come from word of mouth, and often realtors. The realtor community is significant. Many of them don't have time to find rentals. They're focusing on sales. So they might not have time to find a rental, get the person approved. So this is where we help each other. A realtor may show one of our rental listings, and if the client is interested, we pretty much take over from there. There's no contract for lease required. We make this as simple as possible for a referral. So if the prospective tenant or the family, as the case may be, is interested, we'll help them not only get approved with the owner, but in many cases by the homeowner or the condo association as well. And then when all is done, Assuming the tenant moves in, at that point we provide the original realtor with the referral fee. So it's kind of a win-win.
Right. And I can tell you on a personal basis, Liz placed clients of mine last year in a seasonal rental, and again this year. Working with her is a breeze. So if you have tenants that you want Liz's help with to get placed, you can feel very confident that she will take very good care of them and do all the work for you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that input, Eileen. Coming from you, that says a lot.
Let's touch a little bit on the seasonal property work.
Sure. A lot of people have questions about, what's the difference between a seasonal and something that's not a seasonal. Well, basically, seasonal properties, for the most part, they're furnished homes. They can be condos, townhouses, but they are anything rented for 6 months out of the year or less. This is the category that many of our snowbirds fall into. And one thing we need to be very careful of here is, as you touched on before, is knowing the communities well, because as you said, each have such different requirements. For instance, you mentioned if one condo on the beach has a 1-month rental requirement, it could very well be that the one next door has a 3-month minimum requirement. So once we identify, what the person's goal is, what's available, which community might allow a 1-month stay, then we have to go to the owner and see if that's okay with them. Because usually what you'll run into is owners won't want to break up what's considered the high season months, which is January through April, and some consider December in that same category. Others may be more flexible with the month of December, but again, it's on an individual basis. Sometimes somebody will be willing to negotiate the price of rent for December, but generally speaking, the shorter the visit, the higher the rent.
Per month, correct.
Yes. Yep.
Yes. And for those that aren't familiar with the short-term rentals, how would you explain the seasonal tax that's factored into the seasonal reservations?
That's something that definitely needs to be discussed up front, because it can very easily become a significant factor in one's budget as they're planning their vacation. So, Eileen, it's such a good question. Unlike other states, Florida relies heavily on tourist dollars to pay its bills. Seasonal tax, also known as bed tax, is an additional tax over and above the county tax. This can be anywhere from 2 to 7% over the county tax.
Right, and I wrote one last year that was 12%.
Yeah,
it depends on the
that's
area.
That's what it is.
12% bed tax?
Yes.
Yeah, because you think about St. Lucie County is 7%. And then plus 5, you've got 12% right there.
Wow.
So a lot of folks don't take that into consideration, and then they need to kind of reevaluate what they're going to do this year.
I didn't realize that each county tacked on to the...
Yeah, if it's a seasonal, if it's less than 6 months.
Oh, okay, I got you. Okay.
If someone wants to, if they're thinking 6 months, why not write it up for 6 months and a week?
Yeah.
Or something like that, and you can avoid the tax that way.
Interesting. Wow.
Little tip.
Yeah, okay, that's a big tip. Yeah.
Something else to keep in mind with the seasonals, the seasonal rents are paid up front versus an annual, and we have so many annuals, so I really like shifting gears, back and forth, and that's what kind of keeps me busy. But the seasonals are paid up front. So if you have a client who's coming to town 3 or 4 months, we'll collect the full month, the full rental amount, plus the security deposit. Now that can vary depending on the unit. TC Rentals and Property Management will hold that in escrow until the end of the tenant's visit. We take on the responsibility of collecting the required tax from the tenant, and that's something I really want to stress, because somebody stopped me and said, wait, who pays that? Who pays the tax? Is it the person renting or the person who owns it, and it's definitely the person who's coming down and renting.
Right.
So
Owners pass that along to the tenant.
yeah, so I always explain that up front. So we'll collect the move-out cleaning fee. That's typically $150 to $200 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo. And those cleaning fees are prices set by individual cleaning companies. That's not something we, have anything to do with.
So do you have a
we'll
list of provided cleaning companies?
Right, and we'll schedule it, and we'll do the inspections and we take photos so that it's like moving into a hotel. We'll make sure each seasonal is pristine when someone moves in, and then we check the condition each time they leave, and then again after it's cleaned. So that's a little full-time job in itself.
Awesome.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Huh.
Speaking of fees, Liz, what do you see about these crazy rent prices and everything that's going on in our economy?
Gosh, Eileen, I'm far from an economist, but the one thing I do know, and my manager actually taught me or brought to my attention, and I agree with, is that whenever the economy is down, Florida is the last to be hit. And interestingly enough, when the economy is good, Florida is among the first to experience the effect of that as well. So, it would be impossible to deny that things have not gotten expensive in general, but when you compare what's going on to other states, Florida is still looking pretty good.
Yes, I agree with you. And it's because we have such a, what's the word? Not entertainment. What's the word for our economy?
Hospitality.
Yeah, thank you. Hospitality economy.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A very reciprocal, I should say.
Right.
Well, and that's where, I think the EDCs of the various counties, the Visit Florida, have all worked well together. There's been that synergy for the last, 40 years, I guess.
And very smart on their part, yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you bet. Yeah.
So do you think that owners have gotten greedy, or do you see prices dropping?
Well, I'm in agreement with how you started out. First of all, as far as the owners, I believe they've been responding to, they've been affected by what's going on in the economy, just like the rest of us. In the beginning of the inflationary cycle, everything changes when it comes to the value of a dollar. This doesn't just affect us as individuals, but it also affects every aspect of maintaining a home. The vendor, he's paying more for his parts, he's paying more for his gas to get to wherever he's trying to service. But the good news is, we have history on our side. Real estate will not go down. What's dropping or readjusting is the difference between the asking price and the sell price, exactly how you started this conversation. I think the seller's expectation is becoming a little bit more realistic. Let's see. There was something else I wanted to say. I just recently took a class which was so interesting. I wish I could have taken more. But according to some of the most recent studies, we're prepared or told that we can anticipate a more typical healthy appreciation level as time goes on. For instance, next year it would be realistic to anticipate a 5% appreciation.
As opposed to a 30%?
Yeah.
During an inflationary time. That's good.
Yeah, well, a typically normal inflationary. What we've had these last couple of years is not normal, for sure. But it is expected to go up 7, 8, and even 9% in subsequent years. So it's because of the appreciation. It'll actually start lower and it'll increase, kind of like a hiccup, as we all transition into a more normalized inflation cycle.
Well, I don't think, anybody realized, or if you were realistic, that we could continue on the path that we've been on for the last 2 years.
No, that would be very, very scary for our even
Yeah.
the Florida economy if that had continued.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
we would run out of buyers that way. And
Exactly.
And right now we have not. Or tenants.
Yeah.
In fact, we're having difficulty finding properties. We have, over the last 2 years, we have so many more buyers who have bought the properties in Florida to make them permanent residents and taken those properties that had previously been rental properties for the season, taken those off the market because now they're permanently living in them since they bought them. And so finding rentals, at least for the individual realtor who looks, finding rentals is a real challenge now.
Right. That's why the rental prices are so high, because when it comes to rentals, those prices don't go down. I don't anticipate them going down as quickly as the housing market itself, because that's more in the area of supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Well,
yeah.
Realistically, I mean, do we have that many rental properties? I mean, I know they're building some new apartment buildings, but do we have that many new rental properties out there?
Well, you're right, we have new communities that are being built. But as far as individual properties, that's up to an individual homeowner
Right.
to make their property available for rent. And if they
Right.
typically want to come to Florida for a season, then they're not going to make it available for rent. If there's flexibility in their community as far as, let's say they are allowed to rent it for just 30 days at a time, and they only plan to be here for maybe January, February, and March, they could theoretically rent it for November, December, and April and May if they wanted to. But that's up to the individual owner.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I know we had some friends from Connecticut that were looking to, come on down for, just 2 to 3 months, and they said they couldn't find anything.
Yeah, I have tenants, long-time loyal tenants of mine that typically only come for 2 months at a time in the middle of season.
Right.
And I just can't find anything for them this year. We've been looking since June.
Wow.
Do they both
And
have
have-
little dogs, Eileen?
Yep, we talked.
They both
talked
do?
about them.
And they're
yeah.
both under 20 pounds?
Yes.
I might need to see photos of these little dogs. Maybe if I can pass along a photo, I'll have an
Well, we'll
owner
try
soften
then.
a bit.
We'll try. I
Really?
will, yes,
Text me a
really,
couple of
because-
photos.
Okay, I will. Because I would love to. We have a couple more questions I want to get through,
Oh, yeah.
and then we'll talk about some of the properties that Liz has available. We have been working on a property in the Florida Club that she has available for rent, but that owner won't accept a pet, so my tenants can't qualify to go in there, which is breaking my heart.
And oddly enough, that's a community that will allow pets, because so often it's such a flat answer. No, you can't. Tenant can't have a pet in such and such community. So again, it's a little project. So if I can help anybody out there, I'll certainly do my best.
Well, can an HOA tell someone that they can or cannot have pets?
Correct, yes. They make lots of restrictions.
It's in their bylaws.
Mhm.
That's what we have to get our hands on, and make sure the tenants get their hands on them as well.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And the only way around that is if you have a real certified service animal.
Right. Trained.
Mm-hmm. So did I hear something recently about your company being involved in an auction with 2 properties on Naranja Avenue in Port St. Lucie?
Yes, actually, my broker Keith Trowbridge, he's also a professional auctioneer.
I was going to say he's branching out a little bit, huh?
Yeah, well,
I've heard his name before.
He's
yeah.
always branching out. He's quite the entrepreneur. So his name is popular with various businesses. But as far as him being a professional auctioneer, when he gets a listing from the many contacts that he has, he'll often include the option to auction one's property, whether it's a home, vehicle, boat, or otherwise. This would be in addition to marketing a house in the traditional way of placing it in the MLS. Excuse me. It's not an absolute auction, meaning it wouldn't be sold if a bid does not reach the reserve, which is the amount the owner is willing to accept. And by the way, brokers are protected whether their buyers purchase through an auction or whether they go through one of our MLS, because we kind of market it simultaneously, both ways. So the additional advertising that we do for these auctions, including the flags, the signage we place on or near the properties, it's another way to generate interest. And if nothing else, it starts conversation, and it's a lot of fun.
You
So
need
are
to
you
try
involved
radio.
in their auctions also?
Well, to an extent. We had an interesting property. He does many of these, actually, throughout the state that I have nothing to do with. But if it's local, I get to work with him. And we had a nice property out on Citrus not that long ago. And he was marketing it both ways, and it just so happened I got a buyer through the MLS, so it sold prior to auction. So we had the auction anyway. There was so much paraphernalia on the property in the way of fancy, oh gosh, I wish I was a farmer here, but fancy equipment, abandoned vehicles because of the death of a family member,
Okay.
or even the furnishings.
So he was auctioning everything, not
he
just
did.
the structure.
So in that case, the house was already sold, so he focused on just the items. Yeah.
Okay.
So
what is an absolute auction? I've seen those signs.
an absolute auction is the item will go to the highest bidder.
Regardless of the amount.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's no minimum.
Yeah, that's not what we do. I don't even know what the reserve is. The reserve is decided, what the owner's going to accept, and that's usually between the auctioneer and the owner. It's like bringing an offer to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
The same way. Will you accept this? Will you counter or whatever?
Mm-hmm. And what I've seen happen in the past is that when they start the auction, if the beginning bids don't make that reserve threshold, then they have to go back to the owner to lower that threshold, or the property doesn't get sold. It's just like, we watch these, that's why I'm bringing it up. Do you watch the auctions on television with all the cars?
No,
You do, Eileen?
Yeah, we
I can
do.
picture
Do
you
you
doing
really?
something
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
I mean, the 30 years in Detroit.
Well,
industry,
yeah,
so
it's
gee whiz.
sure, yeah.
Anyway, so that's what happens in those also. Each vehicle comes up, and most of them have a reserve, which is a minimum that the owner will accept to sell the vehicle or the property. And when the bids come, as the bids keep going, if they don't get an amount over and above that reserve, then either the owner has to choose to remove the reserve, or the property doesn't get sold.
Right. In this case, if that happened to us, we would just go back to our other forms of advertising. We don't have to sell it that day. It's just, a fun day, to get together. Once those flags go up and people start, what's going on? It really does generate a lot of activity and conversation.
Yes.
And that's when people start, maybe they weren't thinking of buying that day, but then it goes into something they might consider,
Well, I know, like the folks next door with the garages over there, they had an auction on that property, and a couple guys called me here at the station, and wanted to know what I knew about it, and I said, I don't know anything about it, but they were investors. And I mean, they've invested in property. One guy's in the Fort Pierce Rotary Club, and he called me right away, and he just said, well, I've got properties all over St. Lucie County. What's this all about? I said, I don't know. Talk to the auctioneer.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that potential buyer was doing his research, his due diligence to see not only would he talk to the auctioneer, but he talked to anybody he knew in the neighborhood to find out what other things he could find out about that piece of property.
Sure. Yeah, interesting.
Yep.
That's a great way to get information. In addition to what the public information provides us, it's always super great to contact those in the neighborhood and get some good nuggets of what's going on in the community, the pros and cons.
And are there any, because, a couple of years ago, Port St. Lucie stopped us from being able to put lead-in signs, those kinds of things, when we have a property for sale or when we have an open house. We used to be able to, several years ago, buy a permit, an annual permit.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
We could put our permit number on our signs, our
Right.
lead-in signs, and then we could put our lead-in signs up anytime we were having an open house or a new listing, something like that. Well, then they stopped doing that. They said, no more permits, no more lead-in signs. So that's why you don't see a lot of signs out in the median of the boulevards or on the corners.
Right.
Yes.
That's interesting because I remember with that same house that we were talking about in our little neck of the woods, they just had one sign that said open house by the guardhouse, but they didn't have anything on St. Lucie West Boulevard. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and some communities will allow you to have a sign in the window but not on the yard. So again, it goes back to, I know that's so funny
Yep.
because how's people going to see? Well, sometimes people can see it's in the window, but sometimes if the window's tinted, it makes it very challenging.
Well, and I think that's part of what forced buyers into going on the internet and looking for properties. All those years ago when I first got started in the business, 75% of our buyers came from the sign in front of the yard.
That's
That
true.
was the
That's
biggest
true.
draw. That was the
Really?
Yes, 75%.
75.
Yes.
Wow.
And now it's just the flip. Now 75% or more of the buyers
Are coming from
are
online.
seeing the property online before, and it's because there are so many sign restrictions. There is one community that I work in, on two communities that I work in on a regular basis where no signs are allowed.
Wow. Well, if I think about it, the car that I'm driving now, I first saw on the web. So I called the dealer, and
There you go.
that was it.
Mhm.
Interesting. Wow. It's pretty radical that it's changed that much.
Yes, it really has. So this is just a little article that is kind of apropos to what we're discussing today. This was an article that just came out in the Florida Realtor magazine, September 21st, so it's very current. It talks about August U.S. rent increases outpace Florida increases. And it speaks at 10.7%. Orlando came closest to the national year-to-year rise of 11% in rental prices. It was 10.3% in South Florida counties, and median rents actually fell 1.8% in Jacksonville. So it seems like the further north we go, even in Florida, the more adjustments are being made on rental prices as far as adjusting down and not up.
Mm-hmm.
That's because you're in Georgia, not Florida.
No, actually, Jacksonville is still Florida.
Well,
Just like Pensacola is still Florida. National median asking rent was up 11% year over year, according to a new report. The smallest annual increase in a year, down from a peak gain of 19% in March. On a month-over-month basis, median asking rent climbed about 0.5% slower in growth since December 21 and down from 1.6% a year earlier. So nationally, the average median rent is $2,039 a month.
more than that here.
Yeah, well, that's nationally, so that's
Right,
one bedrooms and, in Miami, it was up 10.3%. Fort Lauderdale up 10.3%, West Palm Beach up 10.3%, and these median rents then are $3,027 a month.
Wow.
In Tampa, it was up 5.3% with a price of $2,186 a month. And in Jacksonville, it was down 1.8% with a price of $1,652.
Median too. So
Right.
so much. Thank you for this.
Sure.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting.
So
stuff.
everybody should save their pennies and buy some houses.
Yes. You can't
Yeah.
build equity when you're renting property.
Right.
When you are a tenant, you can't build equity. When you are a homeowner, you can.
Sure.
And if you take a look at, if you don't have a mortgage person to speak with, we can certainly put you in touch with some. And compare your numbers before you make a final decision. How much is it going to cost for a three-bedroom, two-bath house, if that's what you're looking for? And I'm just using this as an example. How much is it going to cost you to rent a three-bedroom, two-bath home as opposed to what your total monthly payment will be when you are purchasing?
Yeah. Yeah. When I think of how much we're paying for, our mortgage, and it's considerably less than renting. I
Right.
mean, it's like, oh my
Yes.
goodness.
Well,
But-
granted, your mortgage has been in place a long
Oh, yeah.
time, but still, your interest rate that you have on your mortgage is probably more than mortgage rates are right now.
Actually, that is correct.
Yes,
That is correct. Yeah.
because although when we've talked about
26
this,
years ago.
many
yeah.
a times, although interest rates are something over 6% right now, that is still a historically low interest rate.
Yeah, right.
People don't understand that. They were spoiled so badly by interest rates under 5%. Totally spoiled by that.
Well, when we bought our first house in San Diego, in
Yeah,
the
we've talked
70s,
about that before.
It was almost 20%. So
Wow.
we're well aware of that. Yeah. Oh boy.
Real quick, I do want to bring up something else that I read this week. There is a very large national bank that apparently has a zero down payment mortgage potential program for people. I'm not going to say the name of the bank on air, but if you want information about this, I can certainly send it to you. You can call or text 772-200-5105. And Liz, before we go any further, why don't you tell me, do you have properties that are available for rent right now?
Well, yes. Actually, we have a lovely 3-bedroom, 2-bath, brand new home, never been lived in. It is in Port St. Lucie, but for those who want to be in Martin County, it's really just a hop, skip, and a jump from Jensen Beach. It's right off of Green River Parkway, and it is has a formal living room, formal dining room, kitchen in the middle, family room on the other side of the island, split plan, and the owners are asking $2,700.
3 bedrooms, 2 bath.
Yeah,
For today's market, that doesn't seem like a bad price to me.
brand new.
Brand new.
So
it's,
is it by Green River Parkway?
Yeah, it's not far from Green River Parkway. It's
Okay.
on Heathwood Circle. So you can call our office and get the address. We'd be happy to show you that this afternoon. That's something ready to go now.
Why don't you give your phone number while you're talking about this?
Okay, well, let me give you the office number, which is 772-225-6742. And what's nice about that is sometimes people call and they want something like next week. And if it's in a community, they have to take into consideration, hey, I could get you approved with the owner in less than 24 hours, assuming everything on your application checks out. But then we have to send your application to the HOA. And granted, that's more of a formality than anything else.
But it still takes time.
But it takes time. And they could technically take up to 30 days. Usually, I'm bugging them, and we get that done in a couple of weeks. But it is time consuming. So if you want something ready to go, this house on Heathwood Circle is ideal. If you're looking for a seasonal, it's going to be hard to find right now because so much of 2023 is already booked. However, I have a...
Already?
Yeah.
Well, that's
Oh,
what I was talking
yeah,
about before. Yeah.
This
I
is
mean,
late. This is late in the season for 2023. But however, ironically, I almost can't believe I have such a nice villa available over in Florida Club, which, granted, it's not on the ocean. Some people are determined they have to be on the ocean. But if you're willing to come in a little bit, this is a beautiful gated community. And
with a golf course.
with the golf course, beautiful amenities, and it's big deal. Eight. What would you say? 8 miles from downtown Stewart. I think I measured it. I think it's 8.5 miles from downtown Stewart.
I would call it more like 6.5.
Okay, well then I was being overcautious,
And
it's
she's
close
timed
to
it.
and it's close to I-95. So if people want to visit relatives in West Palm or something, it's a very convenient spot. So anyway, I've got that seasonal. The price is negotiable depending on how long someone's going to stay. Ideally, I think that owner is hoping to get someone for January, February, March, and April. She prefers not to have dogs because it is such an exquisite home. Not overdone, but really exquisite. Sometimes, you'll get folks come down, and it's sad if they're disappointed in wherever they end up. So we try to be very realistic in preparing our folks. Look, this place is decent. It is used very much as a rental, so that their expectations is more like in line with what they're going to find. And if it's something high end and they're looking to be wanting to feel like they're in their own home, well, that's going to be reflected in the price.
Correct.
As well. So we do our best to match what someone is saying as far as what they're looking for versus do they just need a place to crash and they're really, here to work for 6 months down in Hope Sound or something like that. We could put them in a more economic place. But anyway, I really want to emphasize the Florida Club, and you were actually the first one who turned me on to that. And it was so pretty, Eileen. I just love how the streets are tree-lined like that. It has a really different atmosphere than so many of our communities.
And I love that canopy going in there. When I was down at Eileen's office the other day, it's like, because I remember when that was built, and it's like, it's grown together so beautifully. Yeah.
That's the advantage of a 20-year-old community.
Yes, you're right.
And especially a 20-year-old community that's maintained the way this one is.
Yeah.
Nice sidewalks, nice street lights.
Yep.
Very, very nice. So anything else, I would encourage you to call my office. The inventory does change on a weekly basis for one reason or another. Something could be happening in someone's family. They may have to cancel, so we might end up having one of our more desirable places available at the last minute, which nobody would expect because you can't always anticipate emergencies,
Mm-hmm.
I got a question. The whole Airbnb type thing, has that affected your business at all?
Mine in placing tenants tremendously.
Really?
Yes, because a lot of the properties that are available, that are permitted to be available for shorter periods of time, are going on Airbnb now and are not going on the MLS.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So that part of it, which brings me
That's
into
new competition.
If we had time today, I wanted to discuss with Liz a little bit about the differences between what we do, because it requires a different license. A property management company is required to have a property management license in the state of Florida. A real estate office is required to have a real estate license in the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm licensed to be with a real estate broker, and by choice, that's my choice. Liz is licensed with a property management company so that she can technically do more than I can. I can bring tenants, I can list properties for rent and put them on the MLS and find tenants and screen those tenants so that the owners choose the tenant that goes in that property. But I am not licensed as a property management company, so I cannot manage that property after the tenant is placed. It's illegal for me to do that.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, where Liz.
And there's two kinds of property management. Right now, the bulk of our business is working with individual owners. So when they're out of state and their tenant has an issue, they trust us enough we know certain local vendors, So it's very scary, I would think, for someone out of state to rent their place and then have to, call some company that they don't really have a reputation with. And then they're wondering who are they being price gouged or what? But we're known as having, the best price vendors in the area. But I got sidetracked a little bit. There's two kinds of property management. Although the bulk of our company right now is working with the individual owners, we are expanding to be property managers for communities as well. So that's a whole nother party. We brought somebody in, actually my broker brought somebody into the company, and she's exploring more of that. She's already taken on one community called River Oaks in Palm City. So we'll be hosting any kind of meetings or coordinations that they need assistance with. We have the license to do that. That's not really my forte, but it's under our umbrella, so we'll be doing that as well. We'll be doing more of that as well.
And there probably are a lot of communities in the Palm City area, I presume, that would be into that, right?
Yeah. Well, there's sometimes property management companies get so busy. You want to make sure that you can provide good customer service. So we're doing things slowly as far as expanding to make sure that we can handle anything more that we take in addition to the 90 or so properties that we already have.
Wow.
Yeah, the big difference is that once I place a tenant in a property that I had listed for rent, then it's up to the owner to be able to service that tenant or hire a property management company to do that for them.
Right.
Which makes a big
Gotcha.
difference because
Yeah.
a lot of our owners of properties that are rentals are absentee owners. So for them to be able to service that tenant and take care of any things that would break, take care of things that need to be replaced, things that need to be repaired. It's very difficult for them to do on a long distance basis. So
They often refer to us as their eyes and their ears.
Yes.
We'll do
Sure,
the
you are.
Yeah, we'll do the annual inspections, take photos, send them inspections report so they can see, is this someone that they actually want to renew their everybody wants to renew their lease because it's so difficult to find another place to rent. So we just want to make sure that these are tenants that the owners feel are taking care of their investment and want to renew with,
Right. And another part of the service that's provided through the property management company is you can collect the rents
Oh, yeah, we do that.
and disperse.
Of course.
So, of the 90 clients that you say you have, how many of those are out of state?
I would say most of them. I would say
Wow.
maybe 70%, I'm inclined to think.
I was
I-
thinking
Whoa.
maybe even 80.
Wow.
Honestly, I'd have to check with our accountant, but just from talking to folks over the phone, I mean, we have some international owners. So we have someone who lives out on a sailboat, checks in with us once in a while. And somebody from Belgium and Canada. We have owners, from really all over. So that's why I was so excited to hear how broad this radio station covers. That's so exciting. You've done such a fantastic job over the last 2 years. I'll do whatever I can to help you get sponsors, Eileen, because I think a lot of people are really relying that, checking in with you. I heard of someone who has been listening to you. Honestly, Monday morning,
She has a listener?
I've got my own. I've got my own routine. I haven't been a great listener as far as the time, but
that's the advantage of YouTube, because you can go on
That's it.
YouTube and hear the shows
Anytime.
anytime you want to.
It's on demand.
that's true.
Right.
I'm looking forward to some of your other research that I know you've done.
Well, we really appreciate your time today, Liz. I'm so glad that you could not only join us, but join us in person. Most of the time we have to have a Zoom visitor, but you're actually live in the studio
Yeah,
today.
it wasn't too far, so it was my pleasure to come by. It was pretty exciting, so thank you again. I'll let you get on with your day.
The one thing that I want to make sure we get through today, because we only have a few minutes left, is, very few minutes left, is I know I brought them.
Listings?
No,
Oh.
what I was going to do is I was going to do the stats, because the August stats are out. So let me do
that's
this
right.
very quickly.
That's right.
So this is Stewart, and this is year August 2021 compared to August 2022.
Okay.
Single-family homes in Stewart that sold in August 2022 were 36 as compared to 48 in 2021, and the average sale price was $950,000.
Wait a minute.
That was in
Single-
2022?
That's single family. That's in 20. That's for 2022. Yes.
Oh my.
The average.
Well, remember, Stewart Coves, so this is Port St. Lucie. August 2021, 411 single-family homes sold. August 22, 375 sold, with an average sales price of $434,000.
That's in
Wow.
2022.
Yes.
400.
Port
And then,
Salerno has virtually very few numbers. I don't think they reported everything yet. Oh my gosh, we're almost out of town. You can call or text me. Thanks very much for listening. 772-200-5105. You can email us at mydreamhometeam@yahoo.com or our website, mydreamhomeusa.com. And you want to give your phone number again, Liz?
well, again, the office number is 772-225-6742. If I'm not there, usually Tom is the first to pick up the phone, but Chrissy is there as well. So we work as a team.
Thanks again. We really appreciate your time today and all of your information.
Oh, my pleasure. I hope you guys have a great day.
Have a wonderful week, everybody.
Thank you.
You've been listening to My Dream Home Radio right here on WPSL, Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.